Hey, it's Rachel, and today we are going to talk a little bit about something a bit more personal. And if you want to, you can share this video with your friends and family, but it's about the power of vulnerability. So let me just share my screen. And I think in this day and age that people are afraid of being vulnerable because they're afraid that if they're vulnerable, if they show off, like not say show off, but if they show their, the deepest, like the most true version of themselves, with all the flaws, with all the um mistakes and things like that, then people might view them as imperfect, or people might view them as weak. And there's this particular saying that I've heard that men shouldn't cry, and that's because if men or boys cry, then they're perceived as being weak, being useless. And honestly, I think that that's really like the wrong stereotype because crying is just an expression of number one, vulnerability, and number two, that you have feelings. And having feelings are great because in order to feel the happiest form of happy, I believe you've got to feel the saddest form of sad. Like those emotions are pretty, extreme. And that's the reason why you also want to, show some vulnerability, because true vulnerability, that's when people get to know the true you. And people who like the true you will like you, but you don't have to pretend, like put up like a mask to say that, oh, I'm this particular perfect person, or this person without flaws or without any mistakes, just because you want to get liked. But that's not you, because everyone has flaws, even I do. And so today we'll be discussing about the power of vulnerability. And these are all the false statements where vulnerability doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you fear different things. It doesn't mean anything like that. There's no anger, there's no shame, and you're not like, I guess, asking for fake likes, is what I'm saying. So, what we want to do through this video is to help you understand how being vulnerable helps you and your family and your friends to grow even closer to one another, because everyone is being vulnerable. Everyone is showing that they love, and like they can love others and let others love them as they are, not as like a actor. They don't have to be like the false side of themselves, because honestly, I personally have pretended to be someone else for a little while, just because I wanted to get more, people liking me, or like there's just this preconceived idea of what makes people like them better. And that's the reason why some people just try to, please everybody. Yes, that's the point. So in business, you cannot please everybody, because when you please everyone, you please no one. Like when you try to attract everyone, you attract no one. And that's why everyone tells you to niche down. It's the same in life as well, because there will be people who love you just the way you are, and there will be people who don't. And that's okay. You got to be okay with that. And so, what exactly is vulnerable then, which we will bring for the next few slides. But the idea is, like I mentioned, why do we not want to be vulnerable? Because we're always comparing ourselves to others, and comparison is the thief of joy. That's why you never really get truly happy whenever you compare, because your step one might be people's step 10 already. So when you compare it that way, it doesn't make a fair comparison to begin with. And also, when you compare yourself to others, you're taking away your own joy. You're giving yourself all this jealousy, all this envy, all these negative emotions. And if they help to, I guess, motivate you a little bit, then I would say that it's not too bad. But like I said, it actually steals your joy, which is the main reason why we don't want this. Because what's life worth living if there's no joy, if there's no happiness? And sometimes it's because we don't feel enough. We don't feel like we're more like we're sort of rich enough, we don't feel like we're handsome enough, we don't feel like we're that beautiful, we don't feel like we're smart, and we just don't feel enough. And it's this like negative self-talk that causes us to not want to be vulnerable because we feel that we like people expect something of us, but we don't feel like we've touched on that. We don't feel like we've achieved that expectation. And we try to hide because we don't want to be let down. To a certain extent, that also means that you don't set any expectations. And you try to, make friends with everybody. You try to not set your boundaries. You say yes to everything that everybody says, even though you're really deep down, really annoyed. Deep down, you don't want to do it. Deep down, you might have all those like um someone just screaming no, but you just don't want to let down others and you don't want to be let down. So you don't have expectations of others, but you try to meet the expectations of others. And you don't want to have the potential to lose because obviously, like, life is a little bit like a game, but it really depends on your perspective of how you think of it because the people who are winning in life actually made many mistakes and they learned from their mistakes and then now they're winning. But it doesn't mean that they haven't made those mistakes or sort of quote unquote lost in their life. But you need to get that mindset where you're okay with losing or making mistakes, and that's how you're going to push yourself forward. And finally, sometimes people break a trust, and I have had a friend who broke my trust in my secondary school years. She basically took my name and wrote vulgarities on another person's blog, and then I get targeted attacks. I get bullied by others because of that for something I didn't even do, which is kind of ridiculous as when you think about it. But people just did it. So anyway, they broke my trust, and there was a period of time I really didn't want to trust anyone anymore. I felt really hurt, and I didn't want to be vulnerable. But I realized that there's actually people who, care about you truly, and they don't want to see you become like a porcupine, Those porcupines, they have spikes all over to protect themselves. The only reason why you need to protect yourself is just because you don't want to get hurt. But it's also keeping the people who care about you out because of your spikes. Like they hurt when they touch you, if you get what I mean. So that's the reason why we don't want to, put out those spikes. We want to be vulnerable. That's how you're able to get the care and the love that you truly want. And yeah, don't ever think it's not enough because you are enough. All right. So what exactly is vulnerability then? It is like a door that opens to love, to care, to genuine connection, to joy. And it's like the courage to be you. Because it takes a lot of courage to show your most genuine side to others. And through that showing, through others truly knowing you, truly understanding you from your point of view, from your perspective, that's how people can love and care for you in the way you want. So there's also this topic on the 5 love languages, which I'll go through in another video, but that basically helps you to understand how different people actually want different kinds of love shown to them. And through being vulnerable, you're able to let other people know how to love you, how to care for you. And obviously, that's going to give you more joy as well because you feel loved. And the first thing I want you to do now is just because after telling you all that, we want to learn how to be vulnerable. So first, you want to reflect on why you closed yourself off, why you're not vulnerable, what happened. Run through the whole story in your mind. Like for me, I told you about how my friend, or the friend whom I thought was my friend, had used my name to post vulgarities on another person's blog. And because that person was in the same school as me, like all of us are in the same school, in secondary school, when I was about 13 years old, it just like I felt as if I was betrayed by my friend, and it was the most ridiculous thing because I didn't expect her to do that. Like, I don't know why she hated me. I don't know why she needed to do that. I don't know if it was a joke or what, but it had a lot of implications because I was bullied and people like they basically how did they bully me? They called me fat when I technically wasn't fat. I was healthy weight, but I wasn't underweight. But they called me an elephant, and then they wrote hate notes to me. I think I don't really remember it now because I chose not to remember it. But the idea is you want to run through the whole story in your mind of why you closed yourself off, because then you need to find out the deeper reason behind it. Then you want to face that experience, and you want to from that experience open up yourself. So you got to stop looking at the hurt, stop looking at the betrayal. You got to like just think about how much joy and love and care you'll get if you stop focusing on that thing. Because a lot of people they just keep focusing on the negative things and they can't get out because it's like a trap. It's like a loop. And then this loop just goes round and round and round because you keep focusing on it. And so you want to embrace vulnerability and so that you can love and be loved and let your armor down so that others can see the real you. And number one is to believe that you're enough. So for me, like when I was having that really bad experience during my 13 years old and 14 years old, obviously I didn't deserve it because it wasn't done by me, a friend or that enemy. Anyway, I don't consider her a friend anymore, but she's not an enemy. The idea is she did all those things behind my back and caused me so much distress. But I believed that I could, you know, get over it, get out of it. And during the second year of my secondary school, when I was 14, there was this set of exams that helped me to basically pivot myself and from going from a normal class because we had like A to H, I think. So in Singapore, the education system works really differently. So in a sense, they put all the geniuses, or well, all the people who scored really well in the one class, and then they just shuffle the rest of them into the all the other classes. So initially, my class was one of the average classes. It wasn't bad per se, but it was pretty average. And when I got the opportunity to determine where I would be placed when I was in my year three of secondary school, I just basically did all I can, went crazy into studying, and then after that, I scored really well. So I got into the class with the intellectuals. And that was when life started to change because I, number one, I changed my environment. Number two, I believed I was enough. I could do something to get myself out of that situation because before that I was in the class, same class with the bullies, and then once I got to the new class, the class of all the intellectuals, all the people who scored really high, then I realized that there wasn't any bullying there because obviously it's a different set of friends, and it's also to do with how people are more focused on trying to achieve their goals there rather than trying to backstab others, trying to harm others. And it's a whole different set of mentality. But you've got to believe that you're enough to get into the environment first. And so I just want to tell you that you're perfect just the way you are. And you also want to feel the joy in the moment. Like I said, it is a vicious cycle, especially when you trap yourself into thinking about all the bad things. And there are people who also think about all the bad things that could happen in the future. So, for example, you might have a kid and that kid's studying okay right now. Um, but you're just worried, like, oh, what if my child does poorly the next year or the next year? What if they get like really overwhelmed by all the teachings. Maybe I should send him to more tuition. Maybe I should, get more home tutors, sign him up for more classes. He needs to be this amazing kid that has like grade 10 piano, grade 10 guitar, amazing artist, and all these different things. And then you stress about it because you want your kid to be that perfect. So you actually also set the wrong expectations for your kid, and that kid tries to reach your expectations so they could make you happy. There are a few parents like that. And what I just want to say is you're not only not letting yourself enjoy the moment, you're also taking away someone's joyful moment. Because let's say that they scored well, and then you're worried about future exams where they might or might not score as well. And see, that's the reason why it becomes hard for you to feel the joy, to feel the happiness. And so stop trying to be perfect, stop trying to expect people to be perfect, your kids, your friends. It does not happen. And you don't want to earn the approval of other people because the only approval that you want is yourself. You don't want to meet the standards of others because the only standard that you want to meet is your own. Okay? So don't compare yourself to others, you only compare to yourself. As long as you are improving every single day, as long as you are having progress every single day, learning a little bit more every single day, that's good enough. Because when you try to earn the approval of others, when you try to meet the standards of others, that's what leads to depression, leads to anxiety, leads to all these vicious um, negative emotions that causes a lot of people to be anxious, to be in like emotional pain and everything like that. So just don't be perfect. Don't stop trying to be perfect. And always remember, done is better than perfect, because when you've done something, you can review what you've done and improve on it. If you haven't even started just because you want to achieve perfection in the first thing that you create, then you will probably never start. And taking action is better than just thinking how to perfectly take action and never start, which is why one of my mentors taught me that it's about achieving sloppy success and not perfect mediocrity, because there's no, you can just stay mediocre forever and think about all the perfection. Or you could keep taking action and getting like maybe small successes or little failures that's gonna propel you to what's that big success that you want. That all those mistakes, all those lessons that you've learned, they're going to motivate you to push you there. All right. And finally, you want to stop numbing yourself. I personally am a victim of that as well in the past. There was a point in time where I also felt hurt. Yeah, I remember that now. So I remember there was this friend of mine in uni, and she basically, like, I don't know, she's just physically abusive to begin with. So there was one time, um she's very possessive and she's also physically abusive. I think I mentioned in one of my other videos, but one time I forgot what incident caused her to, slap me across my face. And honestly, it was really painful. And I just numbed myself. Like, to me, I just wanted to have this dead emotion. You know, I'm trying to not have any highs so that I won't have any lows, but it doesn't work. Like, your feelings, you're just bottling them up, and one day they're gonna explode. It is not natural and it is not human nature to bottle up feelings. It's just like, I remember my mom as well. She usually doesn't get mad, but when she does get mad, she gets really mad, like crazy mad, and she throws things as well when she does get mad. It doesn't happen often, but it's all those little things that build up, like all those little stresses, all these little minor quirks and stuff that builds up that she might not have, said, or she might have said, like, just said it as if it's not important, but to her it is actually important. And that's why it builds up. And that's why she explodes. For some people, explosion might mean going into rage mode and, throwing things or punching things or whatever the case is. For others, their rage mode is inside. And that means that people can have suicidal thoughts just through numbing themselves, just through avoiding their emotions, because they feel lonely and they feel closed off. And this is something that I think, like, those we call that suicidal thoughts counselor. I mean, I know that there's this career out there, but basically people want to take notice of this because part of the reason why people have suicidal thoughts is because they're numbing themselves. They don't want to tell you anything of what happened. They don't want to tell you all of their emotions. They don't want to let it all out because they fear that, number one, if they let it all out, no one will understand them. Number two, if they let it all out, people might judge them, and then they just keep it inside. They write the suicidal note or whatever, and then they go and suicide. So the idea here is you want to prevent that, and through vulnerability, you can prevent suicide. Okay, so that's the biggest thing that I want to share with you today. And stop becoming vulnerable. That's how you're gonna build deep connections that's gonna support you in your life. All right. If you like this kind of videos, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. If you want more tips on living out your best life and value-driven content, my social media links are up the top right-hand corner of the page. And I wish you an amazing day ahead.